Hi, it's Dwyer. It is November 6, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Folks, there's a big question. It's going to have repercussions. It's the WBO Lightweight Championship, unbeaten against unbeaten, right-handed guy against southpaw, both guys with a better than 80% KO ratio. Let's talk about it. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Right now, life's unfair. Let me start by saying this is not a fan club site. Right? I'm going to say hard things because I believe the hard things I'm saying. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm just telling you how I'm betting it. Right? In the NFL, there are big questions about some guys. I'll keep the NFL section real short. One is, can Lamar Jackson get to a Super Bowl? Folks, that's an open question. Right? Lamar, unfortunately, sometimes doesn't rise to the occasion in the playoffs. Right? He's in Buffalo, throws a pick. Right? The other guy shows up ready. Lamar isn't quite there. You have another question. And let me just say, this team to me now is the sleeper team in the NFL. Right? If this guy answers this question the right way, I believe they make it to a Super Bowl, even though, I think there are other teams that have at least as much talent. But the question here is Sam Darnold. In the playoffs, can he deliver? Folks, that's a big question. If he can, folks, he has the defense behind him. He has the coach behind him. This is a situation where you need to look at the coach for Coach of the Year, and I know you got some studs out there. Right? The guy with the Colts, the guy in New England. Right? I know you have some horses out there doing great work. But Seattle's head coach deserves at least a look for Coach of the Year. Right? I'm guessing some of these teams, as we get into later November, December, are going to fade. Right? And Sam Darnold for MVP, I'm just telling you, if he is legit and closes strong, that's the big question with him. He has the arm strength. He has the wide receiver in Jigba. Right? He has a lot going on. This match, unbeaten Sam Noakes against unbeaten Abdullah Mason. Folks, I'm going to sound hard here. I'm going to sound unfair here. Maybe I am being unfair. But I look at Sam Noakes, who's great on his front foot, who hits hard, who can hunt you down, who's great to the body, who's two-handed. Right? I look at Sam Noakes. I don't think he can get to the top floor. Right? I know this guy has been a lightweight champion in the UK. He's well connected. He's a Frank Warren fighter. Right? But understand, if I were in Sam Noakes' corner, I wouldn't even waste my time telling him, player, get on your back foot. Right, player, get out of the crouch, change your center of gravity, lean back so you can roll with punches. So you can have the other guy guessing. Right, folks? I want you to look at some of the greats in the sport right now. Right? Not just Usyk, not just Fury. Think about it. You're Fury's corner. You're Sugar Hill. Folks, the world is your oyster. You could tell him, get on your front foot, smother the other guy. You could also tell your 6'9" fighter, create a mobile pocket. Use a mobile jab. Use your height. Right? Land some jabs, lean back, not have the other guy touch you. You have that option. As hard as Sam Noakes hits, you don't have that option. Right? Let's be real too. Neither of these guys has a lot of experience in the second half of fights. Right? This is a WBO lightweight title fight. Folks, it's 12 rounds. 12 rounds. Right? These guys don't really have a lot of experience after round 7. Right? When you still have 5 of the 12. Right? I look at Sam Noakes and, I see a guy playing the same chords. Right? Musicians, when they're, grading great guitarists, right? Hendrix, Clapton, Jeff Beck, Prince, right? When you're judging Van Halen, when you're judging great guitarists, the guy has to be able to change a tune. Right? As good as some solo is, right? The guy needs other solos, doesn't he? Right? Sam Noakes, for all the success, and folks, he could win this fight. Right? He has the aggressive front foot to do so. He could win several more fights. But I see a guy like this, right? Not a lot of bobbing and weaving to get into the pocket. And there's a Mike Tyson vibe to him. Right? We remember young Tyson. But understand, as Tyson aged, he got undressed in some fights, didn't he? Right? Evander Holyfield undresses Mike Tyson twice. Right? Gets inside. Tyson couldn't handle the fact that Holyfield's not running. Holyfield pretended he was Sam Noakes for that fight, figuratively speaking. Right? The Lennox Lewis fight, Lewis knew when he pushed Tyson out of the pocket, he knew Tyson was going to walk back into the pocket, wasn't he? Right? I saw a fight. France Botha. We forget this fight. Folks, Botha was outboxing Mike Tyson. Now, power counts in boxing. Knockouts count. Right? You can watch a guy and see the opponent outboxing him. Mike Tyson only has to be right once, and he was right in that fight. Right? But the bottom line is, a fighter, an opponent of Mike Tyson's, and don't get me wrong, Tyson's a Hall of Famer, he's a great. But an opponent of Mike Tyson had less to think about than an opponent of Sugar Ray Robinson. Right? Robinson is, moving. Robinson, has one of history's best left hooks. Right? Robinson, I couldn't fight Ray Robinson and know with certainty that he's going to be front foot 90% of the time. I know that with Sam Noakes. Understand what that means. It means that Sam Noakes has a cap on him. Right? I know it's tough to say about an unbeaten fighter and stuff like that. I feel confident that against Abdullah Mason, there's not going to be a time in this fight where Sam Noakes decides he's going to back up. He's going to fight off his back foot. I want you to revisit Golovkin Canelo, the first fight. You'll see footage you didn't see in some fights. Canelo on his back foot for rounds. Right? Canelo has a back foot. The one question in this fight is whether Southpaw, Abdullah Mason, who has more upside, so it seems, than Sam Noakes. The question is whether against this level of predatory opponent, right, this level of hunter, will Abdullah Mason, who is taller, lankier, doesn't fight as bent over as Sam Noakes, Does Abdullah Mason have enough confidence in his back foot to actually go back foot in some of the early rounds? To have Sam Noakes chasing him, throwing himself out, right? To win some of what I call the slow rounds, right? Guys with a back foot can actually take a round off, can actually hit you with jabs, can give you things to think about, can force you to follow them around the ring like a puppy. Right? Just understand, if I were in Jay Opetaya's corner, if I was in Floyd Mayweather's corner, you could actually say to those guys, hey man, dance. Get on your back foot. Right? Don't be right in front of this guy. We want to give this guy different looks. Right? We want this guy to be guessing on angles. People here might even recall that for the first Fury-Usyk fight here online, I suggested that Fury, who's ambidextrous, come out like Hagler did, right? With his offhand for the first 2 rounds of the Ray Leonard fight. You know what? Fury could have come out with his offhand, could have come out southpaw to fight a southpaw. Just to have Usyk, who's a slow starter already, not know until the 3rd round the angles on Fury as a righty. Now, folks, here, there's one question in this fight, right? It's Abdullah Mason, how good is his back foot? To me, that's almost more important in this fight of unbeaten against unbeaten as who wins the fight. Right? If it's a close fight and Mason actually shows you a world-class back foot, has Noakes walking into a jab, right? And then decides, okay, that's enough of that. Let me step in the pocket. Let me finish this guy off. Right? If he showed you those skills, even if he lost this fight, in handicapping future Abdullah Mason fights, you would think to yourself, wow, this guy has the skills to handle most opponents. Right? That's the question, because here, if it's an in-the-pocket shootout, right? If both guys meet in the middle of the ring and it's just who lands first, and both guys are landing a lot of shots on the other, we find out that Noakes has a beard on him. Mason, who has been dropped in the past, might not be able to go toe-to-toe in the pocket with Noakes. Let's be real here. I don't care what the reputations are. Right? If it's a shootout in the pocket, you know Noakes is going to be comfortable. Right? Mason, maybe mentally he'd feel comfortable. We saw him have to get up off the canvas in the past. Right? No, I want to see Mason come out and show us that he is actually slick. Show us that he has some Shakur Stevenson in him. Right? Let me say too, we talk about ring coverage. Right? You're fighting a guy like Sam Noakes or Mike Tyson or Joe Frazier. Right? And the guy's bearing down on you, the guy's bearing down on you, the guy's bearing down on you. You need to find a way to create space and to have ring coverage, to be able to land shots from far away. Right? Noakes, he's bent over. He can't move. All he could do is come forward. Right? He's an in-the-pocket fighter. You know where he's gonna be. You have to force him to pick up his feet, and then you have to win rounds by landing shots from the outside. Now, Jay Opetaya can do that. That's why he's J.O. Pataya, right? Just think about the guys who are on top in the sport, right? They can work from outside. The question for this fight is, can Abdullah Mason, right? He has a front foot heavy guy. The risk of getting hit with big punches is too great in this fight, right? 12-round fight. Not a lot of guys here have late round experience. You hope Mason has trained in such a way where he says, you know what, Noakes is all offense, has some defensive skills, but he's not defensively blessed. If I can push this fight to the 7th, 8th, 9th rounds, if I can outbox him in the first half of the fight, all I have to do is win half of the rounds in the first half of the fight. Maybe I can then take over if I fought the first half of the fight the right way, right? With movement, with feints, with angles. Then I can just jump in the pocket the second half of the fight a diminished Noakes, finish him off, right? Fight a guy who has thrown his wad in the first half of the fight and then close him out. So really the thing here, you know, more important to me than who wins the fight, right? Obviously it's important to the fighters, right? Every fighter who is Mason's early 20s, Noakes' mid 20s, every one of these 20-something guys thinks they're going to be unbeaten forever, right? Right? You know, you and I know that the names of the guys who retire unbeaten, you know, Marciano, Mayweather, Calzaghe, Ward, they're few and far between, right? You and I know that. These guys in their 20s think that they're few and far between. Everyone's a future great. Everyone is going to make the Hall of Fame here, right? But just understand, Mason, both of these guys look special. But Mason, southpaw, heavy puncher, more of a back foot than Noakes. Mason has a chance to really be special. But he's going to have to show you a back foot. He's going to have to show you a comfortable back foot against a raging bull type fighter like Sam Noakes. Right? That's what we're going to look for here, right? If you're watching the first round and both guys are throwing bombs in the pocket, both guys are trying to go to the body, you know, Abdullah Mason's close enough to be throwing uppercuts. Folks, neither fighter will be telling you anything you don't know, right? Both fighters would be on brand. The key in terms of getting from this level to the next level is whether either of these fighters can go off brand and show you needed skills like a back foot. Right? You know, I'm sure a lot of fighters have a back foot until they're in the ring with a Sam Noakes. Right? Then it becomes too risky. Right? Well, when you're a young guy and you're 21, 22 years old like Abdullah Mason, you need to go there, right? If you want to be great, you have to show us that against a bull-type fighter, you can be outside. You can have him chasing you. You can stay out of corners. You have a punch arsenal where you can hit the guy from distance. Understand, you know, if you're fighting a hooker, and you have the ability to throw longer punches than the hooker, right? Your jab will allow you to be outside where you can't get hit flush by the guy's hook, but yet you can land your jab. Mason has to show us those skills. If he doesn't, even if he wins the fight, it's a missed opportunity. Let me say, too, I believe we all want this fight. And again, you're talking about very high knockout percentages, right? Both guys in the 80s. I think we want this fight to go a few rounds, right? I don't want to see a fight where, it's like a Moses Atama fight, right? Where you're not, it's Moses Atama, Dillian White, where you're halfway through the first round, suddenly White's in trouble, never recovers. Right? Okay, believe it or not, I knew Atama had power before that fight. All of us did. Right? It's like, okay, what did he learn against a KG vet like Dillian White? Right? In the short time that fight lasted. I hope in this fight, even if Mason comes out, let's say Mason comes out, lands his signature uppercut. Let's say that Noakes is badly hurt. I'm hoping Mason, even if he diminishes Noakes early, lets this fight go a few rounds. Right? Just to sharpen his skills. Right? I know that's high risk. But the bottom line is, he needs to get in rounds to learn stuff against this level of opponent. Right? So those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. If I'm Sam Noakes, right? I'm there trying to develop a back foot. A generation ago, and I'm sure many people remember this. You had this figure. He had just destroyed Pimpino Cuevas. Right? He was big. Times were not politically correct. They called him the Hitman. He was from Detroit. Right? He's fighting Ray Leonard, who you thought of as a pretty boy. Right? Ray, keep in mind, always had power. Right? You don't end your career with a knockout ratio over 60% if you don't have power. But Ray, just looked like he was, a pretty boy type guy. Ray would give interviews and he wasn't trying to portray himself like Mitch Green or anything like that. He wasn't trying to look tough in the interview. Right? So you were watching this fight and you thought, oh, how is Ray going to handle the Hitman? So about the 6th round of that fight, Ray landed to Hitman's ribcage, which was new. Right? Keep in mind, Thomas Hearns was huge for 147, wherever they fought. I think it was 147. Right? Hearns was huge. Didn't have any meat on the bone. Right? Came across like Deontay Wilder in terms of body structure. Right? Hearns doubled over. Then you got some of the most shocking footage ever that I've ever seen in boxing. Hearns then went on his back foot. And believe it or not, started outboxing Sugar Ray Leonard. Right? That went on for rounds. Hearns is ahead in the later rounds. Not because he's landing home runs on Ray Leonard. No, it's because he's outboxing Ray Leonard. Right? That's when you understood, my God, this guy has a back foot. Right? I looked at Mikey Garcia. I had little doubt that he was going to beat Errol Spence. Right? Fight starts. There's the truth. Errol Spence on his back foot. Right? I was looking at that fight. I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Right? Errol Spence suddenly made Mikey Garcia, the smaller fighter, look smaller. Right? Spence is on his back foot. Spence is sticking a jab in Mikey Garcia's face. Spence has Mikey Garcia walking into shots. You understood that Spence was a slick southpaw, not just a slugger in the pocket. Right? And Spence, of course, is a short-range hooker. Right? No, Spence actually has a back foot. Well, folks, we need to see that Hearns, that Spence, type of adjustment from Abdullah Mason in this fight to know that this unbeaten fighter can take it to the next level. Right, folks? It's crowded at 140. Right? Richardson, Hitchens, Parrow. Folks, they're not playing. Matthias. Let's just say if Abdullah Mason plans to try to go through 140, like Ennis plans to go through 154, he's going to have to show you more than just an ability to be front foot heavy and to go in the pocket. Right? I look at a Sam Noakes. He's been a regional champion for years. I'd question how he would do against a Richardson Hitchens at 140. Hitchens wouldn't even have to come inside, right? Hitchens famously beat George Kambosos, right? One of the best jabs in boxing. He'd be able to stay outside, jab Noakes to death. What's Noakes going to do about it? Right? There'd be a natural cushion. It'd be like watching Larry Holmes. Right now with Noakes, I think he's too far gone, right? He's years older. He's 4 or so years older than Abdullah Mason. I don't think Noakes can change his style, right? His whole center of gravity has him leaning over the pocket. Think about that. Right? With Mason, it's a little bit different. You see flashes in his fight of a sustainable back foot. Right? Well, we're going to have to see a developed back foot against an opponent with a greater than 80% KO ratio who's as heavy-handed as Sam Noakes. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.